Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it might be that you're watching this. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope that you're safe and well and blessed. Don't forget that you can share these. Some of you are sharing them, and I appreciate that as well. So you can always share them on Facebook and comment or react or whatever you like to do with them. Um, Today is Tuesday, August the 31st. We have finished up the month of August and now move into October. Pretty soon, summer is. I said October, didn't I? I mean September. Soon summer will be over, and we'll move into the fall, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to read to you today from the Gospel according to St. Matthew. Again, this will be probably a pretty familiar story for you. This is one of the miracles of Jesus, and this is the other than the resurrection. This is the only miracle that is listed in all four Gospel accounts. So now, by now, you probably know what it is. Matthew chapter 14, beginning with verse 13. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." And Jesus replied, "They don't need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up into heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. There was a wise woman who was traveling in the mountains, and she found this precious stone. It was in a stream. The next day, she met a traveler who was hungry, and the wise woman opened her bag to share her food. Well, the hungry traveler saw that precious stone, and he asked the woman if she would give the stone to him. And she did so without any hesitation. And the traveler left rejoicing his good fortune. He knew the stone was worth enough to give him security for a lifetime. But a few days later, he came back to return the stone to the wise woman. And he said, I've been thinking. I know how valuable this stone is. But I give it back to you in hopes that you can give me something even more precious. Give me what you have within you that enabled you to give me this stone. Would it surprise you to learn that everything in your life right now is pretty much the way you made it? That from hundreds of options that you chose, your responses to whatever situations present themselves? Would you agree that you have exercised the capacity to choose what you have received? If so, then doesn't it stand to reason that if you made the choice in the first place, you can change it? That's a pretty powerful notion. Whatever happens to you, you can say, I am the master of my life. But just as that good comes to you, or just as the good comes to you, it's a demonstration of your mastery. So is the negative. It works both ways. Consider this. Consider how hopping fleas are trained. The fleas are put into a glass jar, and as they try and jump inside the jar, they keep hitting their heads on the lid. And over time, they forget that they can jump. And for fear of banging their heads, they never go beyond the limits of the jar, even though the lids have been removed. Through continued failure, they have become conditioned to confinement. And so it is with us. Let me say it this way. If we let things be, our self-made limitations somehow cause us to forget that we can fly. We respond like the disciples responded to Jesus. We only have 5 small loaves and 2 fish. You see, we often needlessly confine ourselves to our glass jars. We may yearn to use our lives creatively, but our invisible prisons remind us you can't do that. It isn't practical. You're not smart enough, or it'll cost too much. People will laugh at you. You're too young. You're too old. Your health won't allow it. Your parents won't allow it. It'll take too long. You don't have the education. Any of that sound familiar? Suppose, on the other hand, suppose we could remember that we were made to achieve. Suppose that we could remember that miracles do happen. And suppose that we really believe that we are children and we are heirs of this magnificent universe. Would we then still allow our jars to limit us to hopping just so far and no further? Suppose we became aware that resentments and hurts and hates and grudges and illnesses and greed and the like are like those glass jars that have been or can be removed. That indeed we may be hampered by the illusion of our own self-imposed limitations. We attract ourselves, or we attract to ourselves whatever our minds are focused upon. And once aware, then we can change, and then we will no longer be confronted to that glass jar. We'll be ready and able to achieve. The disciples wanted Jesus to send them away. They thought that there was nothing they could do. It was an impossible task. And that's just how we are a lot of times. But Jesus just wanted them to trust him. Bring it to me. The disciples did what they could. They gathered what they could. That's what we need to do. All that we can. That's all God asks us to do. All that we can. Rest is up to Him. Attempt something so big that it is doomed to fail unless God be in it. Pastor Mark, love you guys. Be safe, be well, be blessed, be strong. Go do something for Jesus, and I'll see you tomorrow.